So I'm pretty excited. I don't think to do Halloween hangovers very often because I just don't watch that many horror movies anymore, to be honest. Like I do, and I love them. It's probably my favorite thing is finding a new horror movie or even revisiting an old one and getting to just I don't know, feel like I was like a preteen or something back when I was really obsessed with them again. That is still something I love, and uh, I just don't have the time. I hate to say it. It's just the simple truth. It's just not enough time. But last night I went to Barnes and Noble for the Criterion sale, and I posted about this on Facebook. And yeah, my hair's super wet. I was in the shower and the electricity came off. It got shut off, not because I didn't pay the bill, but because I think a breaker went out. It woke me up in the morning. It's like an explosion sound and a car alarm going off. So hopefully that comes back on soon. But the power's on last night, and I picked up this movie that was also half off, but not a Criterion. It's actually an Arrow Video release called The Initiation of Sarah. And of course, I'd heard of it before because who hasn't? You know, that's a household title. But in all actuality, I hadn't heard of it before. But this cover really caught my attention. It kind of took me back to Suspiria, which this film shares a fair amount, just a little bit in common with. It has that whole like almost all female cast. It takes place in a college with sororities, so it's got that dancing school kind of vibe Suspiria had, but the camera work and anything isn't really the same at all. But it is an atmospheric, character based story. It has a lot in common with Stephen King's Carrie, which is good. I mean, I like Carrie, particularly the book. I'm not really familiar with the movie. I saw it when I was very young and remember it, but I've never felt the need to revisit it as an adult. Uh, but yeah, this movie has a lot in common with Carrie and a lot in common with Stephen King. It feels like a Stephen King story. How it does this. So basically, the story is there is a sister who's popular, conventionally attractive. They're both. It's funny. They're both very beautiful women. They're clearly like stunning, but the film like kind of dresses Sarah down. So she has like instead of like an elegant dress at the I don't know sorority stuff. I have a friend who used to be one who could explain it to me again, but I'll probably forget again. When they're like interviewing the sorority girls, and you know everybody's got the elegant dresses on, but Sarah she has a sweater over hers, and she's like this. So you know that means she's ugly, or like I don't know. Maybe as a character, they don't actually like call her like a dog or anything like that, but she's clearly awkward and she has some telekinetic powers. So there's not many big special effects in this movie. It was made for TV, and that's why I wanted to watch it because I'm starting to really love made for TV horror and old TV show horror stuff. It's a really exciting little niche to fall into, and it was written by Tom Holland. I keep thinking Tom McLaughlin for some reason, but I think because I've been rewatching Love and Curses. But Tom Holland, the guy, he did Fright Night, he did Psycho 2, and this was his first writing credit. It says on the back, and that's really exciting because he's Tom Holland. Yeah, I think he even did if I'm not mistaken, I think he wrote no, he directed Child's Play 1, I think. It doesn't matter. You don't even need it. Like Fright Night alone, you can have a career off that. And Psycho 2, I know it's not as groundbreaking as the original. It's not as original as the original, but it is one of the best horror sequels of all time. I truly believe that. I honestly like it more than the original. Maybe because the story is less iconic, so therefore I can invest in it more rather than like the original with all the twists. It's like Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm not saying Bohemian Rhapsody is a bad song or Stairway to Heaven. Both great songs, but you know every beat, you've heard it a million times. It has like ringtone effect where you start seeing it as art and you see it more as like a product. Or it's like, oh, it's this, okay, and you take it for granted. And I take the original Psycho for granted as much as I love it. It's a perfect movie. It's a 10 out of 10. But I just can't invest in it as a viewer as much as I wish that I could. And with the second, I'm just wholly invested the whole time, and it just feels a little more fresh to me in some ways. So yeah, between those factors, the cool cover, Tom Holland, made for TV horror about a psychic, I was completely interested and honestly expecting to be disappointed. And when the movie first started on the beach scene, I was just a little worried that I had maybe wasted my money. Not that the movie wouldn't be worth watching, but that I wouldn't rewatch it. But I'm really glad to say that I'm super excited about this movie and I had a great time watching it. And I found it to be really clever. Yeah, the more, the more sociable, I guess, the more palatable sister, and her relationship with Sarah is really well done, where you care for both of them. I think the palatable sister kind of fucks Sarah over and goes with the in crowd a little too much at points, but every step of the way she has guilt, she's conflicted, and I mean I hate to belittle my genre, but this is a horror movie. I mean, you're gonna get some of that to move the plot forward. You're gonna get some tropes. But this movie does just enough to put it a little bit further than the expectations. And I'm getting into spoiler territory here with some of my flaws towards the end. I guess I'll save that. But the characters are all pretty well defined. They have it's a little bit of Animal House, in my opinion, where it's like you have the popular sorority girls, and then you have the old house full of the nerdy girls, and they've got a rivalry, and the popular girls screw over the nerdy girls, and the nerdy girls want revenge, and then they find out with Sarah's capability, this creepy older woman seems to be taking advantage of Sarah, essentially. And there's not many special effects in this, which I don't think is an issue. This isn't a gore movie. If you want to shock a minute, you're not going to get it. I think there's a shock every commercial break. I mean, it really is a slow burn. I sound like a Redditor or something, but it's like, it is a slow burn. It is atmospheric. It is character driven. And I mean that in a good way. It's not like pretentious about it or anything. It really, to me, it feels a lot like a Stephen King novel, like Golden Age Stephen King. Like I said, very much so Carrie. And I mean that in the highest praise. I really like those books. I really like that era of horror. So it was such a pleasant surprise to actually be watching this, what I was thinking would be like a cheapo, made for TV exploitation, satanic panic type film. And it was actually a thoughtful story with characters that I cared about. Like there were some people, particularly one girl that's kind of suicidal, it seems like, it's alluded to. There's a point where her life is threatened and there's a scare, and I was actually concerned, like, I hope this character makes it out. I want to see her in the rest of the movie. I want her to turn out okay. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of gushing over this movie because I had so much fun watching it. But a big issue I have with the movie ultimately, it doesn't drop off for me. By the ending, I was satisfied. I liked where the story went. The final scene is the kind of epilogue-ish final scene is really great. The climax plays out well. It actually takes place in a hedge maze, like The Shining, which is kind of funny to me. But to get into spoilers, like I said, it's not a well-seen movie. In my opinion, this actually does kind of affect the viewing experience. So if you just want to turn the video off now, if you even watch this far, like, let's be real, nobody's watching this, or let alone this far, but if you're like one of the two people that does, which thank you, this will affect your viewing experience, in my personal opinion, because it is a character-driven, story, plot-heavy movie. Is that there's a moment in it where it takes a turn that I was so into, where the lead sorority girl says to the popular sister, she apologizes and says, I got carried away with this fraternity rivalry. I was too mean to your sister. We want to make it up to her. And meanwhile, this in the what is it? Is it no? It's not Kappa. That'd be KKK. That'd be awful. What is it? Delta or whatever. The Animal House, which is escaping my mind right now. The old lady headmaster there is kind of manipulating Sarah and being evil, clearly. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're twisting Carrie on its head. The popular girl is going to have a change of heart and try to make it up to her. And yeah, I think I have a booger. I'm just going to acknowledge it. I apologize. I don't think I did when I started the video. I'm a human. I can't help it. Sorry. She's going to have a change of heart. They're going to make it up to her. And then she's going to be manipulated by the unpopular, this old, bitter woman into harming these people who, aren't soulless people, bullies. And they're bullies, but they had a change of heart. They're not soulless. And you think that's going to happen. And then ultimately what does happen is pretty much exactly what happens in Carrie. Like, it's a one big fault in the movie for me, is that, like, it's very derivative of Carrie, where you have that, like, pig's blood moment, but not nearly as effective. And I mean, it works. It's not terrible. It's not a bad scene. It's not a bad plot twist, but it just. I thought the movie was going to be something more. I thought it was going to be more clever, and it was going to make the character even more human. And ultimately, it did go by the genre standard, which once again, I mean, it goes above and beyond in so many other ways for me that I can excuse it. I can excuse every now and then, in a horror movie, someone goes to check to see what that sound is in the dead of night. I don't love that stuff, but you got to take it sometimes. You just got to deal with that. And that one scene to me felt kind of cheap, to be honest. Ultimately, though, the movie I strongly recommend to anybody who likes made-for-TV horror, who likes maybe 70s era horror, who likes Stephen King. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. It was one of the most memorable movies I've seen in quite a while. I watched another really good movie called Spree the same night, and I recommend that movie as well. That's a modern movie that I was recommended by a friend, and that was a pretty fun watch too. But that one I feel like more people have probably seen. I've seen that on forums and stuff, so I don't feel the need to really talk about it much. I guess I could maybe in the future. But this one I had never heard of myself. I had never seen before. So when I stumbled upon it and wound up loving it, I thought this would be a great Halloween hangover. So there it was. If I had to give a rating, I'd probably give it like an 8.5 out of 10, maybe a 9. I want to give it a 9, but it just feels a little too generous. In terms of letters, I give it like an A- personally. So that's my thoughts on The Initiation of Sarah.